You don't need to focus on this. You don't need to agree. And you don't need to stay until the end. This isn't advice. And it's not meant to fix anything. It's just a place to sit with a thought you may have already had, but never said out loud. You're not avoiding people. You're protecting yourself. And I know that sentence can sound defensive. It can sound like something people say when they don't want to admit that they're pulling away. But stay with me for a moment, because avoidance and protection don't come from the same place. Avoidance comes from fear, fear of conflict, fear of being seen, fear of discomfort. Protection comes from awareness, from noticing what happens to you after certain conversations, from noticing how your body feels in certain spaces, from noticing how often you leave feeling smaller than when you arrived. For a long time, I thought distance meant something was wrong with me. I thought that if I needed space, it meant I was weak, or sensitive, or incapable of handling life. I told myself that strong people stay, that mature people talk things through, that good people don't disappear. So I stayed. I stayed in conversations that drained me. I stayed in dynamics that required me to constantly explain myself. I stayed in places where my nervous system never felt safe enough to relax. And I called that growth. But it wasn't. It was endurance. And endurance has a cost. Because when you keep staying where you don't feel at ease, your body notices even if your mind tries not to. You start feeling tired in ways sleep doesn't fix. You start feeling irritated without knowing why. You start needing more silence just to recover from ordinary interactions. That's when I began to realize that the distance I wanted wasn't about running away. It was about stopping the constant repair, repairing misunderstandings, repairing tone, repairing assumptions, repairing other people's discomfort with who I was becoming. At some point, I asked myself a quiet question. Why does connection require me to feel exhausted afterward? And once I noticed that, I couldn't unsee it. I noticed that I only wanted distance from places where I kept shrinking, from conversations where I had to justify my feelings before they were allowed to exist, from situations where being myself felt like something I had to negotiate. That wasn't avoidance. That was self-preservation. We're taught that healthy relationships are built on constant communication, and sometimes that's true. But not everything needs to be processed out loud. Not everything needs to be explained in real time. Some things need space to settle first. Some things need silence to be understood. And some things become clearer only after you step back. Distance doesn't always mean rejection. Sometimes it means you're finally listening to your own limits. Sometimes it means you've learned what conversations you no longer need, what explanations you don't owe, what dynamics you've outgrown without needing closure. Because closure isn't always something another person gives you. Sometimes it's something you arrive at quietly when you stop engaging. There's a version of you that kept explaining because you thought being understood would keep you safe. And there's another version of you now that understands something different. That being at peace is safer than being understood by everyone. Not everyone will understand your distance. Not everyone will interpret your silence kindly. Some people will call it cold. Some will call it selfish. Some will say you changed. And maybe you did, but not in the way they think. You didn't harden. You clarified. You didn't withdraw from life. You returned to yourself. If you've been choosing distance lately, maybe you're not avoiding anything at all. Maybe you're just protecting what finally learned to matter. And that's not something you need to explain.